Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. So, righteous indignation. What is that all about? You know? Is it sometimes good and called for to just be righteously indignant and upset and passionate and overcome with emotion? Let me tell you a story. As some of you know, I was raised Mormon, and from the time I was just a wee little boy in primary, we used to sing a song called I hope they call me on a mission when I have grown a foot or two. I hope one day I will be ready to teach and preach and work as missionaries do. And there were other verses. But we were primed as little Mormon kids to really want to spread the word of Jesus Christ and the modern day prophets, and the prophets that most people didn't know were around on the American continent, that were American Indians. I know that might be news to some of you. But so I did go on a mission. I decided to go. And I don't know if I would have if I didn't have two older stepbrothers who had no interest in going. And I think my older stepbrother, the one that my parents were worried was going to murder me, and they sent him to that boys' school in Provo. If that guy had gone on a mission, I might have not gone on a mission. I might have rebelled. But I'm one of the few people I know that my rebellion actually led me to be a goody two-shoes. It's a weird thing. It's like opposing. If my older stepbrothers and sisters weren't getting in trouble, when I say trouble, they were just, most of them were just being normal teenagers, having a drink here, smoking some pot, dating some black guys, not getting haircuts, wearing satin disco shirts, tight pants and flares, being normal kids in the 70s, But if I didn't have that, and if I didn't have a mom that was constantly upset at the stepkids being basically regular kids from downtown, I wouldn't have rebelled against them. I probably would have rebelled against my mom and my stepdad and my dad, and I might have just become a regular kid who smoked a little bit, drank a little bit, and smoked pot a little bit. But my rebellion was weirder. You have to rebel against the older stepkids and become a goody two-shoes Mormon kid. Well, anyway, I'm kind of beating around the bush as usual. I end up in the missionary training center, and the way it works is you have a meeting. You meet with your stake president. He's the local boss of the church, and they ask you a few questions, and you take a test. And then the Mormon church, they call you on a mission. That's why that song goes, I hope they call me on a mission. Right? It's like they ask and you either say yes or no. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Some people get called on missions and they say, no, I don't want to go. And when I was waiting for my calling, after this interview, they ask you some questions. They see if you're a good kid. They see, if you have maybe the aptitude to learn another language. But I had kind of in my mind privately decided that if they called me on a mission to a stateside mission, I was going to say, no, I don't want to go. But I didn't want to tell anybody this because it's kind of like this weird condition. You're supposed to be happy no matter where you're called. You're supposed to say, yes, Lord, that's where I want to go. You called me to the right place. But anyway, my missionary, calling came in the mail. It's a big deal. It's kind of like when parents find out if their kid is accepted to college. The letter comes in the mail, and you all gather around, you open it up, and you're worried. And mine was to Brazil. And I was like, where the fuck is that? You know, I didn't know anything about Brazil. I was like, what, am I going to speak Spanish? Further down the letter said, no, you're going to speak Portuguese. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, all right. I don't know what I wanted, but okay. I think in my mind I wanted Africa or something, you know? I was a little bit of a social justice warrior in my younger days. It's been discussed here a lot, you know? But it was Brazil. Okay, so anyway, in order to go to Brazil and learn Portuguese, they send you to this place called the Missionary Training Center, which is a little compound just near BYU in Provo, Utah. And all the missionaries from all over the world, at least at this time, would go there. And if you were a stateside missionary, English speaking, and you already spoke English, you would just spend 2 weeks in the Missionary Training Center. You know, they'd teach you how to properly approach people and condition them to be duly hypnotized and to accept the Lord as their Savior, and that Joseph Smith is a prophet, and you dunk them, slam dunk, pay your tithing, 10%. You're getting into heaven, buddy. You know, pretty good deal. But if you're going on a foreign mission like I did, you get to spend 2 months. And you spend 2 months in a little room. First of all, the place looks like, it's like, I guess, a dorm. I didn't go to college. I didn't stay in the dorms, but I guess they're just college dorms. They're like college dorms, you know. I mean, if you think about it, it really looks like a prison. You'd be in one room, you'd have 1, 2, 3 sets of bunks. So 6 guys per room, these narrow rooms. That's why they have bunk beds. Little narrow windows at the end, you know, very prison-like. Everybody has to shower together, which I've always thought was the weirdest fucking thing. You know, you can put doors on bathrooms that go floor to ceiling. I don't know why men or women need to get naked together and rub soap in the general vicinity of others. I never got it. I don't know who designed that part of society, but I think it was an oversight. I don't think it was just because wood was expensive and they didn't want to build extra walls. I think somebody was thinking, I think men need to get naked together and look at each other's wieners, you know? There was this one guy, really bad acne, just kind of a nerdy fella, but, you know, we'd have to wake up at the MTC early in the morning because our first class was some ungodly hour, like 7 a.m. I don't know why. There's no reason. They could have pushed it late. Who knows why they make you wake up early? It's just it's a training thing. It's the Missionary Training Center, and they're training you like a dog and making you do things you don't want to do. But anyway, this one guy every morning I'd have to go to the showers. I've never been comfortable just being naked around dudes, so I'm always holding my towel. I put my towel up at the very last second before I take my quick shower, and then I put it back on. I'm a prude. But this one guy always came out with kind of a flopping half boner, you know? Like, when you're a young dude, I don't want to get graphic here, but you wake up with a boner. You know, people wake up with their boners. But most dudes, they wake up with their boners, and then you wait for a minute before your boner goes away, before you walk into the shower. You don't want to go into the shower with your boner. That's like it's the worst possible thing you can do. But this one guy would always go in with a half boner. It was just like, and everybody kind of would be like, oh man, what's with the dude that goes in with a chub every day? Anyway, that's the Missionary Training Center for you. Imagine this dude, years later, 40 years later, I'm talking about this dude and his half boner at the Missionary Training Center. But I kind of get it too. Like I said, he had acne, probably gay. You know, now that I think about it, his physiogeny, if that's, you know, that word is so popular. Boy, I'm really beating around the bush, but I'm trying to lay the scene of what the Missionary Training Center is like. All right. So my room's in there. My companion is this kind of pudgy guy named Jorgensen, Elder Jorgensen, nice guy. I don't even really know why you have to have companions at the missionary training center. Out in the world, I see it. You see these missionaries going around two by two, you know, and I don't know. I guess it just makes it so you have a buddy. It's better than walking around by yourself, I guess. I don't know. But I don't quite figure out why that needed to be happening in the missionary training center because there's 6 of us in a room. The whole place is just, imagine this whole sea. You know, it's funny enough when you see 2 guys walking down the street with a short sleeve white shirt and a tie, you know. But imagine seeing a sea of 1,000 or more of those. I don't remember how many people, but probably about, it was like the missionary training center felt like the population of maybe 2 or 3 big city high schools, 4A, or was it 1A? I don't know. What's the big A? The big high school, not the small one, but it felt like that. But everybody dressed in his short sleeve shirts, ties, going to and from the cafeteria, going to classrooms, and you sit there and learn Portuguese word at a time. And little side note here, the CIA and all these other organizations have long studied why the Missionary Training Center has what is considered to be the best language training system in the world. Like, people learn the language faster than anywhere else, and they've never been able to replicate it. I might be repeating a wives' tale here, but the story goes that the reason why is because when you really want to spread the gospel, it gives you the motivation, and you can't account for motivation. Learning a language is all about motive. If you're saving souls, you really have a reason to be able to speak in someone's native tongue. And you know what? I'm not going to shit on that theory. It's pretty good, actually. It is a good motivator. The desire to do good, the desire to change the world, the desire to keep people out of hell makes it so that people learn a language a little bit faster. Still beating around the bush, by the way. Anyway, one of these guys that was in the room, kitty corner to mine, adjoining mine, you go out the dorm, and then the next room is this guy named, I feel like it was Matthias or something. But he was a guy who was the younger brother of a BYU football star, right? Like the wide receiver, I can't remember his name, but he was really popular. It's just like, oh man. And this guy was also coming up and going to be a football star too. Big guy, typical jock, the friendly kind of jock, the charming jock, And I actually hit it off pretty well with him. He was funny, and we'd tell jokes. And I was kind of surprised because, I was this guy that, if I didn't call me on a foreign speaking mission, I was going to say no. So when I heard this guy decided to forego his spot on the BYU football team, and BYU was the biggest, it was the miracle football team back then, And I couldn't believe that he decided to go on a mission, spend 2 years of his life rather than staying and playing BYU football. I was pretty impressed, We both had flat tops too. That's another thing. But anyway, so one of the things that we would do at the missionary training center is it was a 7-day-a-week event. You're always a missionary, but you get one day off, and it's called P Day. Not Poo Day, but P Day, and it stands for Preparation Day. So it's a day that you don't necessarily have to dress up in your missionary clothes. You can wear casual clothes. You can do some shopping. You can do a very limited set of normal-ish kinds of things. And part of what would happen on P Day in the Missionary Training Center is we'd go play flag football on the lawn across the street from the Missionary Training Center. And this lawn across the street from the Missionary Training Center was the front lawn, or looked like the front lawn, of the Provo Mormon Temple. And you've seen these Mormon temples out there. A lot of them look like spaceships. They're all lit crazy. They're kind of a mix between Gothic and high-tech modern, and some of them look like cakes, and some of them look like old school, and they're building them everywhere, and they usually light them really well, and they take up a lot of energy, and they put them in places where you drive around a corner and you go, oh shit, what's that Las Vegas-looking thing, spaceship all lit up right there on that hill. It's part of their advertising program. But anyway, the Mormons consider the temples to be a sacred place. A place where you have to get a temple recommend, you have to meet with a bishop, and not anybody can go into a Mormon temple. When they first build them, they'll open them up so your average heathens can walk through and see what they look like on the inside, which is just basically kind of a mid-century modern, a little bit gilded, a lot of white paintings on the walls, Anyway, churchy, but the Mormon temple vibe it's got its own vibe. It's like Garden of Eden, But anyway, it's considered to be a holy, sacred place. So we would play football, and I was always like, I'm not so big into sports, but anyway, I think it's Matthias. I can't remember his fucking name, the BYU guy, but it became very apparent that why he was a star football player, because when we were playing flag football on the lawn, he would get just as intense about winning that flag football skirmish as if it was in the Holiday Bowl, which was the biggest bowl you could be in if you're a BYU Cougar, But so we're playing this game of flag football, and he and this other guy that was also a football guy were just going at it and getting really serious, and they were getting mad and pissed off, and they were arguing with each other when things were going down. And at one point, somebody interfered, a foul, and there wasn't a ref because you kind of ref yourself in flag football, and they got into a really heated fight, and they were all red, and their veins were poking out of their necks. You know how people get. And they were fighting, and I got righteously indignant, and I said, "What are you doing? This is the sacred lawn of the temple. You are acting like blah, blah, blah. How dare you?" And I just laid down the law like I was a prophet. Just how I outdid, and I gave this speech of, "This is sacred land, and how are you getting the spirit of contention," and blah, blah, blah. And who knows what else the fuck I said. But I just made the most cringiest speech, but I felt it. Boy, did I feel it. I felt it. Like I was the corrective force. How dare you bring this spirit of fighting? Maybe somebody swore. I don't know. I don't know what set me off. But I laid down the law, and I was probably more red-faced and veins popping out of my neck than they were. But I was righteously indignant. And I remember doing it and kind of, I took charge, and it worked. And everybody kind of just calmed down and looked at me, and they all acquiesced. Their fight laid down, and they all kind of were like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense. We are missionaries, and we do need to conduct ourselves with dignity. And you have righteously called us out, Elder Merkley, and we will now get back to playing football." like spiritual servants of God. Politely. We will politely play football. "Good tackle, my friend," even though it's flag football. But I remember this Matthias guy. He was like the only guy of the whole group that kind of looked at me like, "Dude, what the fuck? Are you serious right now? You don't understand how sports goes?" It's like, but nobody did. Nobody called me out. He didn't call me out. We went back to being chums and whatever. I probably had this talk with him after, "Hey man, sorry about that. It's cool, bro. It's like, you're right, blah, 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 servant of the Lord, this blah, blah, blah." Anyway, why am I talking about this righteous indignation? This emotional righteous indignation. Well, it's because that's what I'm seeing all over the internet from ladies when they talk about the Epstein files. You know what I mean? It's just, just this righteous indignation. The topic itself, the name, the any reporting on it, the list, the name, the victims, the this, the everything is just And if you try to be the Matthias guy that I'm talking about and go, oh, you're being over emotional, chill out. They don't react the way the football team did. They get more. There is that old thing that if you tell people to calm down, take a break, take a breather, relax, you're getting swept up in your emotions and your feelings, settle down. Well, you know what happens if you tell ladies to do that. They just notch it up even more. It notches up. I spent the morning this morning, because all these files, I'm so tired of talking about it, honestly, because as every day goes on, I think, have we reached the apex yet? Has the lore been topped yet? When will it jump the shark? A lot of us thought it jumped the shark in 2016. But it just keeps getting a new life. And this whole releasing the files, and I'm doing air quotes, it almost feels like a way to keep the emotion, that feeling of righteous indignation, high. And let me tell you, when I was swept away in that feeling of righteous indignation on the front lawn of the Mormon temple, preaching and chastising a team of guys just playing flag football, my emotions were hot. I was flowing. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in my zone. And I could see this happening. You'll see somebody will do a clip and they'll go, oh, this is a particular clip. Some TikToker was like, in a foreign accent, was like, we have looked at the Epstein files. They're very hard. There's millions of gigs, and we looked at them, and I'll tell you what we found. And what we found are the darkest version of Epstein yet. And I'm going, oh, okay, I got to see this. Let me see what they found, right? But they're talking about the dark thing, and it's the worst thing we've seen yet. And then they're showing clips of what appear to be just regular old iPhone videos of just regular old iPhone stuff that looks like your iPhone. Here's Sheila. Sheila's by the cake. It's Sheila's birthday. Here's somebody doing this. Here's somebody opening up their shirt. I mean, come on. It's like, are we, but there's blocked faces on everything. And that blacked out face is what really makes things bad. Okay? Because when you black out something, you remember when Kimmel used to do this unnecessary censorship? He'd take an innocuous phrase that somebody said, and they would just censor part of it. And then because it's censored, everybody automatically assumes that that person was saying something bad. It's a wonderful trick, I tried it with somebody in the comments, They were saying, but the reason why we don't know how evil they are is because everything's redacted. And I go, well, actually, it's the redaction that causes you to imagine things that may or may not be there. I don't know how good your imagination is, but I don't know if you know how to uncover a black box with your mind. I don't. And when that black box exists, I'm more likely to imagine something bad than imagine something good. Like, for example, I heard you blanked a woman at the blank hotel on blank last week after you blanked a man who you then blanked by the highway off route blank on August blank. If you type that out, it works better. It doesn't work as good to say it. But if you type it out and you can type out an innocuous sentence and then blank out all the vowels. And suddenly it looks like, oh, that that's bad. Oh, that's bad. And to me, that's what most of these Epstein files looks like. Another quick story about this that I've told here, but I'm going to tell it again, is that one of the most revealing things in my life, and maybe one of the reasons why I'm so skeptical and I'm so curious about how easily people are whipped up into a fury and into righteous indignation and virtue signaling and whatever, is because my mom dated this guy, a hypnotist named Wherein. He was popular in Canada, but he also did these tours where he would go to local auditoriums and, he'd pack the place and he'd ask for a bunch of volunteers, and 20 volunteers would go on stage to be hypnotized, right? And my mom, I don't know if she dated him or if it was her best friend that dated him. I know her best friend took photos of him, but I got the impression that they were kind of dating. Anyway, he was hot after my mom. She was single, and he looked like the kind of guy. If you look him up, he kind of looks like Wolfman Jack without the beard, but maybe even had the beard. He looked basically like Wolfman Jack, right? 70s disco hair, studs on his suit, that kind of thing. Soft focus, backlit. The quintessential 70s hypnotist. But one of the things that I learned by going backstage to a few of his events is that he'd pick all these people and he would just start his routine, which was hypnotizing people, mass hypnosis, right? And it was just kind of corny things and like trying to get people in the mood. But what he would do is he'd go down, it started out with 20 people, and he'd gradually just dismiss people. And then once he tapped you on the shoulder, you were done, and you went back to your seat, And what he was doing, what he explained to me later, in very short terms, was that he just knows who's going to play along or not. There was really no hypnosis going on there at all. People arrive at the show knowing what the show is supposed to be, that they're going to watch people be hypnotized and do wacky things. And he just, by a process of elimination, figures out who's going along with it. Who are the people that are going to say, as they say in the improv theater, yes and. If you do improv theater, that's the rule. When somebody says, I'm a duck who barks like a dog, you say, yes, and you bark like a werewolf. Yes, and I am a werewolf. You just build on them rather than being a roadblock. And that's all he was doing. He's just finding people that go along with it. Now, in those situations, I was always like, well, are they going along with it because they want to be on stage and have fun? Or are they going along with it because they actually believe that they are being hypnotized? That's the big question. And I don't think he had an answer, and I don't think I even asked it to him in that way. But that's what I've been thinking about that for many years. But when I look at what's happening with the Epstein thing, and with basically anything where something has incomplete information. In other words, get back to this TikTok video. This is really popular where this woman is just giving a reason. I've looked at all the Epstein files. We went through thousands of gigs and it's the darkest thing in the world. And she's showing clips, but the clips themselves, if you didn't have a narrator and didn't know who anybody was in the clips, if you didn't know who Epstein was, they're just innocuous clips. The ones in this particular video. Without her narrating it and telling you how you're supposed to feel about it, you would just go to these videos and you go, okay, I'm looking through somebody's phone. Boring. Oh, flirting. Oh, here's Uncle Joe giving a cousin a hug. Here's Uncle Joe holding cousin Ellie on his lap. She's fully dressed. No nudity, no. It's the suggestion though. When you're told that you're looking at a video, and now the lore has gone through the roof, not of a man who was convicted of grooming teenagers, which is what his conviction was. His and Ghislaine's convictions mutually are that they were part of this ring where she was getting girls for him you know, underage girls from the high school, not post-pubescent, but underage girls, you know. And of course, again, I don't want to redo that, but making that distinction seems to make a lot of heads explode. I make it, fine, whatever, deal with it. But the suggestion that he's this kind of guy, I'm seeing in this comments, I'm just going, hey, I made this comment on this video. I said, I'm going to say the unpopular thing here, but what I'm seeing in this particular video aren't any crimes. I don't see any crimes being displayed here in this video. She's telling me that these are dark things, but these actual videos are not showing any crimes. Everybody's fully dressed. Everybody's happy. Everybody's laughing. There are many people in the room. Somebody's videotaping it. They know they're being filmed. None of these are secret recordings, And I said, but what this video does show me is the power of suggestion, that people are highly suggestible. If you redact something or show something out of context or give it context and say, what you're watching here is the phone videos of a convicted pedophile. Like suddenly him eating a piece of cake, it's like, oh, wait, what is that? Is that, because he's a cannibal. And people are saying, in the comments, we have proof there are thousands. And then some people are saying there are millions of videos of him with children and babies. And people are saying, you haven't seen any, I'm commenting on this TikTok video, the one TikTok video. But people are saying, you're a pedophile apologist. You're just an apologist. And I'm going, look, I'm commenting on this video. They said, but we all know that there were millions. I go, what are you talking about? We all know. Pam Bondi said that he had a cache of CP on his hard drive that she wasn't going to release, but she said that he downloaded it from the internet. And I'm saying this is the same kind of stuff that they catch people with all the time in stings. All these predator hunters, they're catching people with this stuff on their phones and stuff all the time. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist, but everybody's making the leap, and suddenly people are thinking he was a cannibal, he was a murderer. And I was going, okay, maybe he was. Show me some video that, it's all over, there's tons of it. And I go, okay, well, show me some. Oh, we can't show you. They're not going to let you see that. I go, okay, so it exists, you haven't seen it, and nobody can see it, because in order to see it, it would be terrible, and they have to redact it. So the only thing I'm left to do is I just have to believe that it's there. Nobody saw it, except for maybe Pam Bondi. She had to sit there and go through a whole folder of horrible things. Anyway, I'm just saying, here's the thing. The problem is if you try to create reason and try to go, okay, we get it. He's convicted. He's allegedly dead. His co-conspirator is in prison, federal prison right now. You could maybe hope that she had needles poking in her eyes and, being stretched on a table, but she's in a federal prison where she gets to go jogging in a windbreaker each day, and maybe that's too good for you, for her role in grooming teen girls for Epstein. Again, I can hear the shrieking right now. You're diminishing it. You're diminishing it. You're supposed to amp it up, Merkley. It's amping. That's what we do. We amp when a person is bad. We don't just accuse them of the things they did. We need to say they're a cannibal. Don't you understand? That's the way it works. That's the way we do the monster thing. Is we have to say they're guilty of cannibalism and they eat babies. In fact, they made a big soup. This guy shared a video. He goes, you haven't seen the pictures I've seen. I go, well, share them. He shares me this picture that's redacted, but one part of the has a baby's leg. It's two chickens that are sitting on a table, frozen, and you see this one little leg that looks like a baby's leg. And you go, oh, shit, well, is this from the Epstein files? And I quickly went to Grok. I said, what's this stuff? And he goes, oh, it's an artist in 2003 that made the unredacted version is just a man that's frozen between two chickens. You know, it's a Photoshop thing. It's the kind of type of shit I would have done. But when they put that black box on it and say it's Epstein, then half the world just goes, oh my Lord, I just saw the worst thing imaginable. And in this comment section, it's almost all women. It's at least 95% women that are just anything I say that says, well, I get it, you say that, but that's not what this video shows. There are millions of videos of him eating children. Okay, can you link to any of them? No, because you can't, it's illegal. Okay, so why do you think there are some? And why not just say 10 million? This guy says 1,000, you say 1,000,000. But the questioning of it, the asking people to calm down, to go, okay, this obsession you have with Epstein says more about you, certainly does about Epstein. You haven't seen any of this stuff yourself. You tell me that if I need to say it for myself, that I'm a sicko. You're a sicko. You mean, what, do you have to see full-on CP in order to believe that Epstein did it? And I go, well, kinda, yeah, I actually do. Like if somebody is accusing somebody of doing a terrible thing, call me crazy, but I need proof before I make a decision. Am I nuts? Wait, hold on. Looking around. Anybody else with me? And I look at my comment and it's got, 100 likes, 25 of them which are angry faces, and then women just 40 women going, you are a pedophile protector and apologist and blah, blah, blah. And we know, everybody's saying, we know he did this. We know he did it. And I go, I don't know what we know. I don't know any of this. For all I know, the whole thing is a big crazy hoax to make us nuts, to get us crazy so that we're thinking about Epstein and we're thinking about this island and we're thinking about this celebrity and this politician and that politician, and we're imposing the worst thoughts and the worst ideas on them, and it's there to make us nuts and make us crazy, and it seems to be working, and it doesn't seem to be going away. People are getting more and more wrapped up in their emotions, and every piece of new information that they present. This one woman was going, oh, you're nuts, and she started pasting all these screenshots from emails that have no context to me at all. One guy was saying, there's more cream cheese than there are babies or something, and I'm going, okay, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, but if you're presenting it to me in light of Epstein as a child molester, you're making me do work. You're making me make cream cheese into something I don't want to make it into, and you're making me I have no context of this conversation. You're taking a snippet out of it. And you're giving it to me delivered in the Epstein packaging. So the point I'm trying to make is every time I ask for anybody to direct me to hard evidence that Epstein was not the groomer that I'm talking about, it's totally plausible. It makes complete sense that he was convicted for what he was convicted for. That he and Ghislaine, that little scenario makes total sense to me. Conviction, great. Fantastic. Worked out. Good job. The files come out that Trump is the one that turned him in. Trump's the guy that said, hey, take a look at this guy. And you really should take a look at Maxwell, who he called Max. She's the real creepy one. That woman is, according to these documents, I don't know who made these documents. I don't know if they're true. I didn't search a hard drive. I have no fucking clue. I have no fucking clue. But the more it goes on, the more it seems like, whether it started out as a true story, it seems like the opportunists from both sides are just, well, not from both sides. There's two sides. The evil people are using it as an opportunity. to freak people out, to imply things, to make implications that you, using your brain. You know, when they put these pizza code things and this, they're making you use your imagination. And this is what I've been saying for a long time. The more you use your imagination, the more invested you are in the outcome. That's kind of the sneaky thing. Remember that Louis C.K. bit? Probably not a good guy to reference here, speaking of his whacking off in front of hotel guests. But when he, about the N-word, he said, when you say the N-word, you're just making me say the word in my head. You're making me say the N-word in my head. Why are you making me do the work? You say it, you know? And that's what I think about all this stuff. This stuff, the redacted stuff, it makes you use your mind and your imagination to fill in blanks. And they literally are blanks, you know? And I find that people are very hesitant to restrain their imagination in those situations. They're very hesitant to just go, hey, I don't know the context of these things. I don't know what this means. Are you saying that you have some kind of secret pedophile code that you know? Because I don't know pedophiles, so I don't know how they talk. I don't know what codes there are, but this to me looks like part of a joke where I don't have the rest of the joke. And you're presenting it to me as evidence that is creepy. And that's, you're leading the witness, Your Honor. You're leading the witness. You can't do that. Yeah, so I don't know why I'm compelled to take this unpopular opinion, because Lord knows it's not going to gain me any friends. I don't know what it is, but if you want to gain friends, say what the mob wants. Mobs like to be mobs. You know, if you want a bunch of friends, just go, hey, what are you guys doing? We're going to go hang a guy with our pitchforks and oh, give me one. I want to light the flame too. What are we doing? I don't know. What do you do? It doesn't matter. He's guilty. Ugh. You know, say the things that they want to say. That's the way. Ramp it up. When they say there's 1,000 victims, you go for 1,500. You know, it's like an auction. Everybody's trying to one-up the guy. But I'm telling you, every time I ask for hardcore, can you please link me to that source so I can see the context? Once I do get the context, I go, oh, it certainly looks different. You know, this is a Photoshop thing. This is from a different thing. This thing that you're using as proof, well, that one's AI. It appeared just a couple of days ago. You can see the Gemini logo in the corner. You know? But back to Ravine, it's those people want to. Those are the people that want to believe. That's why when I made that comment, I said, this is more evidence of how easily the masses are swayed by tabloid sensationalism. And, you know, look, every time I used that word last time, somebody in the comments here, you know, it was like, well, it's not sensationalizing when you got 10,000 victims. You don't even understand it. Netanyahu and his CIA and Mossad, and we all know this. We all know it. We know it. We know he's alive. They have pictures. Well, okay, there's pictures of him alive in Israel, also AI and Gemini logo. But every time you ask somebody to just say, can you just please, Merkley, can you take a breath? I know that you're a Mormon missionary right now, and I know that you're standing in front of the temple, you know, and I know you've wrapped yourself up in this idea that you're a servant of the Lord and you're doing the right thing. Can you maybe take a breath and realize that Matthias is playing a game and that he enjoys football more than you do, and that's why he's good at it. And lots of people that are better at sports than you have a higher level of passion about it. So maybe save your fucking speech, Merkley, and let people play their game of flag football and don't make it all about you. Okay, America, that's confusing because now you're speaking about yourself in third person, and I think that maybe you're doing another double play where it comes back around. And aren't you now doing the exact same thing? You're making the Epstein files about you because you're telling your opinion about how these things, and you're criticizing them because they want to have their beliefs. And why don't you just let them be enraged? That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked. Because I don't want to live in a world of people that are constantly enraged and outraged and thinking about pedophilia all the time. You can't log on to Facebook without, he's a pedophile, that guy's a pedophile, he's a pedophile, the pedophile files, the file files, the PDF Epstein pedophile files, we're finding things in the pedophiles, and all the files are files and files and files of pedophiles, miles and miles of pedophile files. It's like, I don't want any more of that. And I especially don't want to see our lovely women, our beautiful women, who should be out there making the world beautiful, sitting around making endless comments about Epstein and cannibalism and all of his horrific files, crimes that they'll never know because they're keeping it a secret. They're keeping it a secret. And we know they're keeping it a secret. We know all their secrets, but we don't know what they are because they won't tell us their secrets, but we know they have them, and we know that they're bad. We know because all secrets are bad. Pam Bondi. She needs to unredact, Pam Bondi. You know, here's another thing. As if this recording hasn't droned on for long enough. I've got tattoos. I didn't get my first tattoo until I was 40. I was a late bloomer. But on my knuckles, the knuckles that would punch you in the face if they did, on one hand, they have the four letters THAT, that. And on the other hand, they have this. And the back of one hand is the word one. And on the back of my other hand is the word other. So on the one hand, I have this, and on the other hand, I have that. Very clever am I. But I actually got them to remind myself there are two sides to every story, and that any time you come across something that seems salacious or crazy, that you have to go, well, on the one hand, you have this. On the other hand, you have that. To me, it's important to look at both sides carefully and be reasonable. I don't know if that's a crazy thing. It might be crazy to tattoo that on your hand. but I did that, you know? And I'm going to stand by that. That's all I want people to do is just go, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Granted, I'm not the guy you want on your football team. Because, 2 minutes from the end of the game, I might break out into a speech and say, why are we fighting over this ball? It's silly. Who cares who wins? I'm not the guy you want. I'm not the guy you want on the battlefield either, because I'm the same guy. I would probably do that. People are firing and shooting each other. I'm the idiot that would go up and go, hey, come on, guys, this is ridiculous. Why are we fighting? Don't you realize we should be friends? Brains splatter all over the place. So yeah, you probably don't want the one hand or the other guy in a lot of situations. But I think in some of these situations, I think it's a valuable thing to be able to go, slow down, slow down. Redactions are bad. I get it. My whole thing is that I heard you did the blank with the blank and the blank thank, and then blank, 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 and Sheila said you blanked and blank, blank. That's bad because it does create a situation where people have to use their own minds. But on the other hand, you can see why, considering all the people out there that say, That guy's name is in the files. Yeah, he's in the files because they were talking about him. He's in a movie, you know? Bad dudes shake hands with people. I shook hands with a murderer once. Doesn't make me a murderer, you know? So you can see why a good person, a rational person would go, oh man, you see that crowd out there with the pitchforks and the tiki torches? They want blood. And there's no evidence in these files that this person did anything wrong. Certainly nothing we can prove. But their name is in here a lot. Do we want to throw this person to the wolves? Or this person was a victim? Everybody has a right to face their accuser, so that's true. On the one hand, you can't have a fair trial without knowing who your accuser is. You certainly can't have a kangaroo court where your accuser is anonymous. That can't work. But on the other hand, you can see why somebody would want to protect a young victim. Because society will create a lot of pressure, and there's a rational reason for that person to walk around with a heavy cloud of maybe shame, maybe they should feel it or not feel it. But as a rational person, a good person can come to the conclusion that maybe we should redact these names. Maybe we should redact this. Maybe because people already, no matter what you put out there, some innocuous email about a pizza party, we see already that there's a whole mob of people ready to go, this is code for child cannibalism. Pizza is code for a dead child on a plate. Cheese is code for unspeakable things. It's like, fuck. I literally have emails about pizza on my... I have had pizza parties before. I remember one time when I was what was I? I was probably a Sunday school teacher in Provo, Utah. There was this woman, I got to church, and this woman was, all the people that were kind of early to church were kind of assembling in it was a BYU ward, so it was like in an auditorium. It wasn't a regular chapel, but she's handing out flyers, that said, for a flick party, pizza, root beer, blah, 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 handing out flyers for a get-together for the middle of the week. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, shit. And I handed it back to her and I said, will you please read that for me again? She says, flick party. I said, will you read it again? Look at it closely. And her face goes white. And she goes, and she runs around and starts grabbing them all because she hadn't realized that she had connected her L with the I in flick. And it very clearly read, fuck party. And she was handing them out at church. She was horrified. She brought them all back. But guess what? That party wasn't a fuck party. It was a movie party where people ate pizza and drank root beer. But guess what? If one of those people got trapped up with some bullshit and their emails were revealed, there are a million ladies on the internet that would go, cannibals! Orgies! And that's what I'm seeing on the internet. And you can call me a pedo apologist or whatever the fuck you want to call me, a diminisher. You can call me anything. We're going to check your hard drive. How much time to check your hard drive? Thanks for outing yourself, man. You just see this guy's profile picture. He's an old white guy. Of course he's an old white man. Of course the old white men are always protecting the elites. That's right, I'm protecting the elites from my apartment in San Francisco. Talking into my phone. Protecting the elites, protecting the powerful. I'm not just calling for people to be rational and not get swept up in their emotions. No, that's not it. I'm protecting the elites. Do you know what I mean? The world has gone mad. I've been telling people, and by the way, this doesn't work either. The literal truth that I've been telling a lot of these ladies, I go, lady, take a break. You got PDF files in your brain. You're typing in all caps about cannibalism, murder and thousands of videos and Mossad and 9/11 and moon landings and Erica Kirk. It's not healthy. Take a break from the internet. Put down the phone. Go make some cookies. And I'm not saying that because you're a woman. Well, I kind of am. But mostly because cookies are wonderful. Cookies are amazing. Flower arrangements are fantastic. Potpourri. What a wonderful smell. What a wonderful thing it is to have a home smell nice. You know? What a wonderful thing it is to have a nice yard. To look at something beautiful, to think of something beautiful, to write a beautiful song, to make a beautiful poem. You know? To simply just talk about wonderful things. Let me tell you something. If you tell women to do that, their veins pop out of their neck like they're fucking BYU running back in a fight during a flag football game on the lawn in front of the Mormon temple as a self-anointed preacher yells and screams to settle down. It's all insane, man. We're living in interesting times. The world is crazy. It's really crazy on the internet. I feel very conflicted about being part of the internet, about keeping people on the internet, about, I really do. I feel very conflicted when I post on Facebook and I keep people coming back and I engage in that content. And, a friend of mine was saying, well, he's just texting all morning. She goes, you're awfully quiet. I go, I've been fighting on the internet. She goes, well, what are you doing that for? Liberals are crazy. You'll never convince. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it because there needs to be a rational voice in these comments. There has to be. Because somebody's reading it and they don't dare to click like, but they're seeing it. They don't want to click like because they don't want to be called a pedophile apologist. They don't want the mob after them, the mob of screeching ladies. They don't want that. But I feel compelled to put that there, the calm voice of reason. That's me. That's what I'm talking about. Me. I'm the calm voice of reason. Anyway, it's raining today. I like the rain. I'm going to get up and make myself something to eat. But I'll just leave you with this final thought. A friend of mine was texting to me yesterday or the day before about how Jews are ruining the world. She said, Jews are ruining the world. And I said to her, no, they're not. The world isn't ruined. The trees in my backyard are beautiful. Little bonsai tree. My piano works. Your piano works. Your sewing machine works. The pigeons are beautiful. The birds are chirping. They're flying. Cows are mooing and farting and making people upset with their farts. Turning our globe on fire. But they're great farts and they taste great. Not the farts, but the steaks. I don't recommend tasting a cow fart. I don't even know how you do that. But the world's not ruined. Nobody's ruining the world. You can't ruin the world. You just can't. You can try to light it on fire. It's only going to burn so much. There's going to be a line in the forest where the fire goes out. You can try. They like to say that, the nukes would kill everybody. Okay, that might be true. Somebody's going to survive. The plants are going to survive. Things are going to happen. Beauty and miracles are going to happen all the time. They already do. There's nowhere you can point your eyes, even if you close them, as I'm doing right now, and just seeing the red. You know how when you close your eyes, you can see a latent image? Right now, I close my eyes, and I'm seeing the latent image of my deck And it's fading right now, but I can still see it. I can still see the outline of my trees. And that's a miracle. Everything I'm looking at is a miracle. Everything that you can see is an unfathomable miracle. It doesn't matter. You don't think it's a miracle? Get out your microscope. Look at it harder. It's a fucking miracle. Everything's a miracle. And nobody's ruining it. People are trying to ruin it. People are trying to ruin your day. They're trying to ruin your imagination. They're trying to get you thinking about cannibalism and disease and death and dead puppies and starving polar bears. They're trying to do that. They're trying to do that, but it's not working. The world is still beautiful. The polar bears are still fine. The world is actually beautiful. That crow that you heard just now, beautiful, gorgeous. The ravens, once you figure out they're different than the crows and they're bigger and they talk more like monkeys and they seem like monkeys, it's amazing. So nobody's ruining the world. If the world seems ruined, take a break. Log off, take a walk. Make something beautiful. So, happy Valentine's Day. Thanks for listening. Unnecessary outro song to totally